Have you ever thought about how fragile your kidneys really are and how much damage could be happening silently without you knowing? What if I told you that millions of Americans are already living with chronic kidney disease, many without realizing it until it's far advanced? And here's the biggest shock. The very foods you eat every single day might be speeding up that damage or protecting you from it. Hello friends, I'm Dr. Nana, and welcome back to Senior Health Boost. Today we're diving deep into your kidneys, why they're so delicate, what puts them at risk, and how food can either help them last a lifetime or push them toward failure. Unlike the liver, which has an incredible ability to repair itself, the kidneys don't regenerate very well. That's why it's absolutely critical to understand how they function in relation to the foods you eat. If you take good care of them now, you can keep them working strong for years to come. I urge you to watch this video all the way through, because the best foods for detoxing and protecting your kidneys are not the same for everyone. They depend on what stage of kidney health or kidney disease you're in. Chronic kidney disease, also known as CKD, is alarmingly common. By the time someone reaches stage 3, when the filtration rate drops below 60 milliliters per minute and stays there for more than 3 months, that's considered chronic kidney disease. And this isn't rare. It affects about 1 in 7 adults in the United States, roughly 37 million people. Just picture being in a crowded room. Statistically, several of those people already have CKD, whether they know it or not. So why does kidney damage happen? The kidneys are made up of thousands of tiny vessels called microtubules. When those fragile blood vessels are injured, we call it microvessel disease. This same process is also what causes blindness in diabetics. And what's the #1 cause of that vessel damage? Type 2 diabetes. High blood sugar creates swelling, irritation, and destruction of those delicate blood vessels. The second major culprit is hypertension, or high blood pressure. Constantly elevated pressure pushes and strains against the kidney vessels, wearing them down over time. Then there's kidney infections, which involve the immune system and are often diagnosed as glomerulonephritis. Finally, one more everyday source of damage is from over-the-counter medications, things like aspirin, Tylenol, and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. These may seem harmless, but taken repeatedly, they quietly hurt the kidneys. When you step back and look at it, the vast majority of kidney damage circles back to one central problem: sugar and insulin resistance. This isn't just about diabetes, it's also at the root of metabolic syndrome, which includes both type 2 diabetes and hypertension. Even a large percentage of high blood pressure cases improve significantly when insulin resistance is reduced. And let's not forget the immune system. Sugar weakens its defenses, leaving you more vulnerable to infection. So yes, sugar and insulin resistance are behind most cases of kidney damage. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We have to understand the stages of kidney disease, because the foods you eat will affect you differently depending on your stage. The naming system can be a little confusing. Stage 1 sounds like early kidney disease, but in reality, it means your filtration rate is still above 90, which is actually normal. In my mind, that should be called healthy or stage 0. Stage 2 is when your filtration rate falls below 90 but stays above 60. That's when you start to see subtle changes. Your kidneys aren't filtering optimally anymore, and in some cases, you might even notice early symptoms. But here's the strange part. If your blood test shows an EGFR of 77, you're technically in stage 2 CKD, yet many labs won't flag it because their normal range says anything over 59 is fine. So you could already be in trouble without anyone telling you. Stage 3 is where things become serious. This is when your filtration rate drops between 30 and 60, and it's further divided into 3A and 3B. Stage 4 is below 30 but above 15, and stage 5 is when your filtration rate falls under 15 milliliters per minute. At that point, your kidneys are essentially shutting down. When most people talk about kidney diets or foods for kidney health, they're usually referring to stages 3 and 4, when filtration ranges between 15 and 60. The other stages look very different in terms of dietary needs. And in this video, we'll begin at the very bottom of the list with stage 5 kidney failure, where filtration is less than 15 milliliters per minute, and where food choices become absolutely critical. In the previous section, we uncovered how fragile the kidneys are, why insulin resistance and sugar quietly damage them, and why understanding the stages of kidney disease is critical. Now, let's go deeper into why stage 5 is so dangerous and what happens when you reach the point of kidney failure. The scale of the problem: kidney disease isn't just a personal issue, it's a public health crisis. Globally, about 2 million people suffer from kidney failure. But here's the striking fact. Even though the United States makes up only about 4% of the world's population, nearly 40% of all kidney failures occur here. That's close to 785,000 Americans. Think about that for a moment. It's almost 10 times the global average rate. Doesn't that tell you something? This is not just bad luck, it's a reflection of diet and lifestyle. Now consider this. The US spends over $4 trillion every year on what we call healthcare. Yet those staggering numbers haven't reduced kidney disease rates one bit. If anything, they've continued to rise. That should make you stop and think. Perhaps what we're calling healthcare isn't really healthcare at all, it's sick care. We're treating the consequences of disease, not preventing the causes. And here's the reality. If you truly want to be healthy, you can't rely entirely on the system. You have to take control yourself. You have to learn how your body works, understand what drives disease, and make the choices that protect you, long before the hospital ever gets involved. Why you don't want stage 5. So, why is stage 5 full kidney failure so devastating? Because by the time you arrive there, you're left with only two choices: dialysis or a transplant. Dialysis, in one sense, is a miracle of modern technology. Imagine a machine that filters your blood for you, removing waste products when your kidneys can no longer do the job. Without it, survival would be impossible. But make no mistake, this is not a pleasant lifestyle. You're tethered to a machine several times a week, each session lasting hours. Your freedom is limited, your energy is low, and your body constantly struggles to adjust. And the survival rate? Sobering. Only about 35% of dialysis patients live beyond 5 years. Many people die within the first year. There are exceptions, of course. Some survive 20 or even 30 years on dialysis. But statistically, the odds are poor. To put it into perspective, if you're 60 years old and healthy, you could expect to live until 80 or 85. But if you start dialysis at 60, your life expectancy drops to about 64 years. That's a difference of 2 decades lost, simply because the kidneys could no longer function. The second option is a kidney transplant. Survival rates here are much better. About 80% of transplant patients are still alive at 5 years. That sounds hopeful, doesn't it? But there's a catch. Only a small fraction of patients ever receive one. Every year, about 100,000 people in the US wait for a kidney transplant. Only about 20,000 kidneys become available. That means most patients remain on dialysis while waiting, and tragically, many die before their name ever reaches the top of the list. This is why prevention, protecting your kidneys before they fail, is so critical. Once you reach stage 5, you're not choosing between good and bad options. You're choosing between difficult and devastating ones. Why food matters so much so? Why do people with kidney disease need to limit certain foods? It comes down to the kidney's job. In a healthy person, the kidneys filter excess sodium, potassium, phosphorus, nitrogen, a byproduct of protein metabolism, and even extra fluids, even water. Normally, they maintain a perfect balance, keeping what your body needs and eliminating the rest. But when the kidneys are damaged, this balance breaks down. Suddenly, what used to be harmless salt on your food, a banana, a glass of water, can become dangerous. The kidneys can no longer filter these substances properly, so they build up in the blood, stressing the body and worsening the damage. That's why patients with advanced kidney disease are often told to restrict sodium, potassium, phosphorus, protein, and fluids. At first glance, it makes sense. If the kidneys can't handle it, you need to cut back. But here's where a dangerous myth comes in. The myth of restriction. Many people assume that because damaged kidneys can't handle certain nutrients, that means those nutrients themselves are bad. But that's not true. Take protein, for example. Protein is not the enemy. In fact, it's essential for building tissue, repairing cells, and maintaining health. Even a mildly damaged kidney needs protein to repair itself. Likewise, minerals like sodium, potassium, and phosphorus are crucial for muscle function, bone strength, and energy production. Yes, if your kidneys are already severely compromised, you may need to temporarily limit these to prevent further strain. But in a healthy kidney, these nutrients are not harmful, they're absolutely necessary. Here's a simple analogy. If you break a bone, putting weight on it slows healing. So for a while, you avoid walking on it. But would you then conclude that weight bearing is bad for bones? Of course not. In reality, Weight bearing is what keeps bones strong in the first place. Without it, they weaken and break more easily. The same principle applies to kidney health. Restricting essential nutrients in someone with healthy or only mildly impaired kidneys can actually do more harm than good. What about the early stages? So let's talk about the early stages of kidney disease, stage 1 and stage 2. In stage 1, your kidneys are still functioning normally. Your filtration rate is above 90, which means your kidneys are doing their job effectively. There's no reason to restrict protein or essential minerals at this stage. What you need instead is a diet of whole, unprocessed foods that supports repair and prevents further damage. In stage 2, your filtration rate falls below 90 but remains above 60. This is where congestion begins. Should you restrict nutrients here? Not automatically. The key is to look at your blood work. If your sodium, potassium, or phosphorus levels are still in balance, your kidneys are still managing well. In that case, eating real, whole food provides the body with the building blocks it needs to heal and recover. But if your blood pressure is rising, or your labs show imbalances, then yes, you may need to be more cautious. The important thing is not just restriction, it's understanding the root cause. And once again, that root cause nearly always comes back to insulin resistance and sugar. Sugar clogs up the kidneys. Insulin resistance damages blood vessels. Together, they create the perfect storm for kidney disease. Which is why the most powerful dietary approach for protecting your kidneys is one that lowers sugar, lowers insulin, and reduces inflammation. That means focusing on a low-carb, high-fat diet, or a whole food, paleo-style low-carb diet. This isn't about starving your body of nutrients. It's about removing the very things, sugar and processed foods, that damaged your kidneys in the first place. So here's the bottom line. Limiting protein and minerals doesn't prevent kidney disease. Understanding and addressing the real cause, insulin resistance and sugar overload, does. And when you start at the root, you give your kidneys a fighting chance, even in the early stages. Next, we'll break down the specific foods and categories that can either help or harm your kidneys, depending on the stage you're in. And trust me, you'll want to hear this, because some of the so-called healthy choices may surprise you. In the last section, we looked at why stage 5 kidney failure requires immediate medical care and why you can't handle it on your own. Now, let's talk about diet, protein, lifestyle habits, and how things shift between stages 3, 4, and 5. Protein and whole food. The first key is simple but powerful. Stick with whole foods. When you eat whole foods, real, unprocessed, nutrient-dense choices, you provide your body with the tools it needs to rebuild tissue, including kidney tissue. And what about protein? You absolutely need protein to repair and maintain your tissues. Cutting it out entirely would be a mistake. At the same time, you don't want to go overboard. Why? Because protein metabolism produces nitrogen as a waste product. In healthy kidneys, that's not a big issue. But when the kidneys are struggling, too much nitrogen becomes toxic. So, balance is the goal. If your filtration rate is still fairly strong, say closer to 90, you don't need to worry much. But if you're closer to 60, you may need to reduce your protein slightly. Still, remember this. Some protein is essential for healing. Exercise and stress management beyond food. Your lifestyle matters. Exercise is critical because it sends signals throughout your brain and nervous system, activating functions in every part of your body. Kidneys, heart, metabolism, everything benefits when you move. And then there's stress. High stress raises blood pressure, and high blood pressure damages the kidneys further. By practicing relaxation techniques, meditation, or even simple deep breathing, you can lower blood pressure, strengthen your immune system, and reduce the risk of kidney infections. Think of it this way: every time you reduce stress, you're giving your kidneys a break. Stage 5, the emergency zone. Stage 5 is very different from earlier stages. At this point, the kidneys are severely damaged, and professional care is non-negotiable. You need a nephrologist, a kidney specialist, guiding your treatment. Diet restrictions become strict here. Sodium, potassium, and phosphorus must all be limited, because the kidneys can't eliminate them properly. Even fluids must be restricted. Imagine that even clean water becomes dangerous because your body can't get rid of it. Protein is a special case. Even though nitrogen waste is a problem, your body is losing protein rapidly and desperately needs to replace it. The protein albumin, the main protein in your blood, helps keep water inside your bloodstream. When you lose too much albumin, fluid leaks out, leading to swelling and severe edema. The losses come from multiple sources. The liver often produces less albumin when it's under strain. Damaged kidneys may allow protein to leak out through urine. Dialysis itself filters out additional protein. So in stage 5, while protein must be monitored carefully, you can't eliminate it. The key is to choose high-quality proteins. Why? Because nitrogen waste comes from proteins burned for energy. The better the quality of the protein, the more efficiently your body turns it into tissue rather than waste. For example, lean meats, fish, and eggs are generally better choices than cheap protein powders or low-grade sources. Poor quality proteins often leave behind large amounts of nitrogen, adding more stress to the kidneys. Stage 3 and 4, the moderate damage zone. This brings us to stages 3 and 4 of chronic kidney disease. Here, the kidneys are moderately to severely damaged. There is still hope, but the kidneys can no longer handle full loads of nutrients and waste. This is where the traditional kidney restriction diet becomes important. Here's what it typically looks like. Sodium. Limit to under 2,000 milligrams per day. Too much salt makes fluid retention and high blood pressure worse. Phosphorus. Keep it under 1,000 milligrams. Excess phosphorus can weaken bones and damage blood vessels. Protein. Usually between 60 and 80 grams per day, depending on your body size. Enough for tissue repair, but not so much that the kidneys are overwhelmed. Potassium is a little more nuanced. In stage 3A, when filtration is still between 45 and 60, potassium is usually handled well. In fact, it's such a valuable mineral that you don't want to restrict it unnecessarily. Potassium regulates nerve signaling, muscle contractions, and especially heart rhythm. But once you drop into stage 3B 30-45, things change. At that point, the kidneys start struggling with potassium. You'll need to limit it below 3,000 milligrams per day. And in stage 4, the restriction becomes stricter below 2,000 milligrams. Why so strict? Because high potassium levels can trigger dangerous heart arrhythmias. In extreme cases, it can even cause the heart to stop. That's why monitoring and balancing potassium is so critical in the later stages. A final word on stage: when you understand the progression from stage 1 to stage 5, the diet begins to make sense. In the early stages, whole foods and good nutrition are essential. In stages 3 and 4, careful limits are needed. And in stage 5, strict control and medical guidance become life-saving. The most important thing to remember is this: food choices should be stage-specific. What's healthy in stage 1 may be dangerous in stage 5. And what's necessary in stage 5 may not apply to someone still in the early stages. Now that we've laid the foundation: protein balance, exercise, stress management, and the stage-specific kidney diet, we're ready to explore the real-world application, which foods to avoid and why. Some of them might surprise you, because they're often marketed as healthy. And that's exactly where we'll begin in the next section. In the last section, we discuss the importance of tailoring your diet to the stage of kidney disease, urine. Now, let's take a closer look at specific foods that are commonly recommended, why they're helpful or sometimes not, and how to make the smartest choices for your kidneys. Apples. The classic recommendation: apples often make the top of kidney-friendly lists, and for good reason. They have natural cleansing properties, and when you look at the numbers per 100 grams, they're impressive. Phosphorus at just 11 milligrams, potassium at 107 milligrams, and sodium at only 1 milligram. That's very gentle on struggling kidneys. But here's the catch: most apples are larger than 100 grams, often closer to double that. And while their minerals are low, apples do contain natural sugar. If you're in stage 3 and your kidney damage is linked to insulin resistance or diabetes, that sugar is the last thing you need. Think of it this way: an apple may look innocent, but if blood sugar is what's harming your kidneys in the first place, adding more sugar even from fruit can make things worse. Bell peppers: a smarter swap. Now let's talk about one of my personal favorites, bell peppers. They deliver nearly the same low levels of phosphorus, potassium, and sodium as apples, but without the sugar burden. Bright, crunchy, colorful, and versatile, these peppers are an excellent substitute if you need something light, refreshing, and kidney safe. Berries. Small but powerful berries are another category often recommended. And among them, raspberries shine the brightest. They pack a ton of nutrients, bold flavor, and yet are very low in sugar, just 5 grams per serving. That's what makes them such a perfect fit for a kidney-supportive diet. Blueberries are also great, but here's the trade-off: They're a bit higher in phosphorus and potassium, and their sugar content is nearly double that of raspberries. They're still far better than many snacks, but portion control matters. And then we come to cranberries. These are famous for supporting kidney and bladder health, and yes, they do have cleansing properties. But let's be honest, very few people can eat cranberries raw because of their tartness. That's why cranberry products on the market are almost always loaded with sugar. If you're diabetic or insulin resistant, that sugar cancels out the benefit. Unless you can handle cranberries in their natural form without sweeteners, it's best to avoid them. Cabbage, a versatile classic cabbage, is one of the most underrated kidney-friendly foods. It's naturally low in sodium, potassium, and phosphorus, and it can be prepared in countless ways. You can steam it, saute it, shred it into salads, or even ferment it into sauerkraut for added probiotic benefits. Its versatility makes it a simple yet powerful staple. Cauliflower. Watch the portion size. Cauliflower is another excellent option, though it comes with one caution. Per 100 grams, it looks fine in terms of mineral levels. The problem is that cauliflower is so easy to eat in large amounts, 2, 3, or even 400 grams in one sitting. At those quantities, the potassium adds up quickly. That's not an issue in the early stages, but if you're in stage 4, you'll need to keep your portions in check. Leafy greens. Gentle but nutritious green leaf lettuce is a perfect example of a food that's naturally low in problematic minerals. Realistically, you'll never eat 100 grams of lettuce in one sitting. Even 40 or 50 grams makes for a big salad. This makes it a very safe and easy addition to your diet. Onions. Flavor with benefits. Onions are another standout. They're low in sodium, potassium, and phosphorus, and they're also low in carbohydrates. On top of that, they're rich in sulfur-containing amino acids, which can help boost glutathione production. Glutathione is one of the body's most powerful antioxidants, enhancing your immune system and supporting detox pathways. With onions, you're not just adding flavor, you're boosting your kidney defense system. Eggs. Why the whole egg matters. Now, let's tackle a controversial food, eggs. Most kidney diet lists recommend egg whites only because they're lower in phosphorus. But here's the problem. When you strip away the yolk, you lose a lot of the protein's quality. The result? Your body struggles to use it effectively, and that means more nitrogen waste, the very thing you're trying to minimize. Instead, it's far smarter to eat whole eggs, but in moderation. Remember, the recommendation is not to eliminate phosphorus, potassium, and sodium completely, but to restrict them. That means you do have a budget for these minerals. If you're going to spend that budget, make it count. Whole eggs provide high-quality protein and building blocks that your body can actually use for tissue repair without producing excess waste. Meat and fish. Still important. The same logic applies to meat and fish. Some kidney diets suggest heavy restrictions, but these foods are still among the best protein sources available. Limiting them makes sense, but cutting them out completely doesn't. High-quality protein from fish or lean meat gives your body the essential amino acids it needs to heal and repair. If you're going to consume protein at all, make sure it's worth it, nutrient-dense, complete, and high-quality. Garlic, ginger, and turmeric. Medicinal additions. Finally, let's talk about 3 powerful foods often considered medicinal: garlic, ginger, and turmeric. These are anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and cleansing. They're potent, so you'd never eat them by the 100 grams. Instead, even a teaspoon here and there makes a difference. Garlic helps fight infection and lowers inflammation. Ginger supports digestion and has strong anti-inflammatory effects. Turmeric, with its active compound curcumin, is one of the most studied natural anti-inflammatories in the world. Together, these 3 can be sprinkled into meals almost like natural medicine, small in quantity but mighty in effect. Wrapping it all up, so there you have it, 10 categories of foods that can make a world of difference for your kidneys. Some are gentle and supportive, others require moderation, and a few need to be avoided completely depending on your stage of kidney disease. Your kidneys are small, but they play a massive role in keeping you alive and well. Protecting them means protecting your future. So take these tips to heart, make smarter food choices, and give your body the care it truly deserves. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone you care about, and of course, subscribe to Senior Health Boost for more life-changing health insights. Together, we can build a stronger, healthier future. See you in the next video.